Good morning, guys. Just want to give you guys an update. Some of you might be wondering how the hospital journey went, or maybe not. Maybe you don't even remember or know. But I want to give you an update. I went yesterday. There's Layla doing her homework. I just want to guys keep you kind of up to date if you want to know kind of what our journey is. I don't know if I'll do one day today, but it's kind of fun just to have testimony and story of what God is doing here in South Africa and here in the hospitals, and us being invited in to be in the hospitals. So yesterday I went with a few of our friends, not really knowing what to expect, because they invited us in to do an assortment of things that I would never imagine that they would invite us into doing, and so it was pretty unclear of what our jobs would be. So I landed myself, 11:30 in the afternoon, landed myself in the ICU, helping there. I met a gal named Sarah, and she began to take me around, just introduce me to her friends. So I was in the ICU for a minute. She showed me kind of, that I was going to be a drug runner, taking prescriptions to the pharmacy and then bringing the drugs back and putting them in this place and understanding the sheet. And I was like, wow, this is intense for the first day that you put that much kind of responsibility on volunteers. And then she, like I said, took me around to meet her friends, and so she took me to the maternity ward and introduced me to people, and then took me to the pediatrics ward, and I got to meet the lady that runs the peds unit, which was wild and then they just started asking me questions, and so I stood there for about an hour answering their questions, talking about Jesus, talking about the kingdom of God. I mean, both the ladies confessed to being Christians, but it kind of turned into like a discipling moment of just talking about the kingdom of heaven and talking about Jesus being our king, that being a Christian isn't just Jesus in a filing cabinet. Jesus is king, and so when he invites us to go to the nations, or invites us to quit our job and do this, or invites us to give to the poor, or these things that Jesus calls us to do, or to live a holy life, or to live righteously, or to be holy for he is holy. It's like these aren't suggestions, from a friend. Like these are like commands of God, like to go into all the world and to preach the gospel, or to make disciples of all nations, or to be at peace with everyone around us, or to love our neighbors ourselves. And so we got into this conversation about Christianity and her daughter, and it was just beautiful, because I just kind of felt like, to some degree, I was almost on autopilot, like God was just speaking through me and encouraging these ladies and inspiring the ones that were sitting outside, not involved in the conversation but listening. So that was kind of the beginning of my journey there. So I'm like, wow, Jesus, this was amazing. Wasn't really prepared for that. So then landed back in the ICU, found a lady that I connected with, and she's like, do you remember how to do the prescriptions? She's like, I'm really busy. And so I just stood there awkwardly, walking back and forth and using these two cues, like, do they have any prescriptions here? No, they have a prescription over here. And then they finally did. I'd run them down to the thing, come back. I just found myself standing around a lot, have a lot of opportunity to pray just for the unit, just for the nurses, just kind of standing there praying and kind of interceding for the patients. And then at one point, one of the nurses was like, hey, can I help you? And she's like, let's go pray for this lady who just had a heart attack. So I'm like, wow, that's awesome. So get to pray for a lady who just had a heart attack. That was awesome. And then just, again, spent a lot of time in like the nurse's little cubicle in the middle, just praying for people, kind of just with myself, and just, God, what do you want me to do? Just continue to ask the nurses, hey, how can I help you? Oftentimes they're like, do you want to just find a seat, sit down and relax? Like they weren't sure what to do with volunteer. At one point they gave me tea and coffee and like, just sit down and get your lunch. And I'm like, no, I'm just here to serve you. Just here to take care of what you need. And I think they felt blown away. I had, at one point, one of the nurses stopped me in my kind of run back and forth between the pharmacy. And she was like, I just want to tell you, like, it's so refreshing to have somebody that wants to be here, that's happy, that's smiling, that kind of brings joy and light into our unit, because we're busy and we're bogged down, and the ICU is full of sick people, full of dying people. There were a bunch of people with COVID in there as well. It was encouraging and inspiring for me to realize, like, wow, you can see my smile behind my mask. You can see the joy that I bring and the light that I bring, having Jesus, having the Holy Spirit inside of me, that it still translates through the mask, because that's kind of a concern. Like, I'm smiling at everybody, but they can't see my face. They see all this, you can't really tell if you're smiling. So I start to learn, like, oh, this little winky thing kind of translates as a smile. So I was super encouraged by her, just trying to love people, getting to know the staff, learning their names, getting to know the black staff that are like their porters and people, the cleaners, like smiling at them, giving them an elbow because that's like the thing. So just trying to bring some joy. So I was really encouraged. God is moving, and realized like I can still bring joy and light and love people and still encourage people in their jobs. More than I thought I could behind a mask, even though it wasn't like radical. I didn't see the lady get healed, but I also really got convicted last night in our prayer set after going to the hospital. It's like, did I love that patient like God did, like God does? Do I see her, because she's on her deathbed, so to speak, struggling on a ventilator, struggling to breathe on her own, and who knows if she'll recover. Like, man, did I have God's heart for her when I prayed for her? When I looked at her and I was like, man, no, I didn't. And so I was really convicted. And just as I continue to go back into the hospital, I go back in tomorrow. Megan's there right now, and then Megan goes back tomorrow as well. It's like, man, that Jesus, you would give me your heart for the lost, you give me a heart for the patients in the hospital, that I would love them the way you do, that I could pray from a place of love. So that was wild. It was an awesome day, doing far more than I thought I'd do on the first day of volunteering, learning people's names, learning patients' names. It was awesome. So yeah, I hope that encourages you guys. I kind of try to keep you up to date just in our journey of, like, right now we're only doing 2 4-hour shifts a week. I imagine that'll change as COVID continues to spread here, because they have a COVID ward that I wasn't in, but we had COVID patients in the ICU because I think they were so busy upstairs in the COVID ward. Anyways, love you guys. Hope this encourages you. See you soon.